This is interesting, Ryan. When I first came up with the idea of starting the podcast series, the concept, the name for the podcast is Beyond Human Condition. And what I wanted is to create this platform, this place that I can have these engaging conversations with different individuals that have something of substance to say, in your case, with your background and especially music that relates so well with martial arts. But it's just kind of like exploring how all of this information that we are dealing now in our life on the planet as a human also can have a relevance beyond our human condition, meaning what happens when we die with all of this informations or learning or teachings that we collect here while we're here, And then that is going to bring us to other conversations that we had in the past. But, for example, the use of plant medicine from ancient cultures that I do see as a biological, natural vehicle for human consciousness to have that openness and expansion, to have a clear view of what we are, the type of vile animal creature that we can be. And if we are not able to see that, and we're not able to accept that we are trapped right now under that condition, then there cannot be any evolution at all. So, but at the same time, this is my personal view, we're all passing through here, and we all have a specific time frame that we're going to be on this planet. So this idea to try to hold on to it by any means, it's just not the way to go.
Well, for me, I don't think about, I do a lot of things to try to keep myself healthy, and it has less to do with, I want to live to be 100, and more to do with, I want to, when I'm 60, be able to move properly.
Yes, quality of life.
Quality of life is the number one thing. But I think one of the byproducts to having a higher quality of life is that you also tend to live longer in some ways. And then inevitably we fall apart. How do you feel about the longevity stuff that's going on right now with people trying to extend their life and because in the same way that you were talking about, there's too many people, or you want to, you wonder about that.
Yeah, then you have that. Correct.
You have a lot of people that are living longer,
but not in real health conditions.
No.
Because if in order for you to live that long, you have to take 20 different medications, a day, and you need all of this technological or medical assistance in order just to be there. I'm not gonna judge anybody, I just know personally that's not what I wish for myself.
Okay.
So I'd rather spend less time on this earth and having the right quality, the right vibrancy, independence, which that brings me a little bit to the martial arts concept in this case, with the samurai and Aikido, which will be the definition of honor, which is something that we hear all the time, especially in those Japanese samurai movies about the honor, preserving your honor and having honor. What does that really mean? And in my interpretation, honor can only be when you are self-sufficient first, when you are truly independent. Because as long as you have to count on something or somebody else, now your integrity it's been shaken, and without that integrity, then there's no real possibility of honor. And this is why the samurai culture that thrived in Japan for over 1,000 years, they were ingrained with this idea of the suicide ritual, the seppuku, the harakiri, when you lost your honor, which is something that completely contradicts any westernized Christian, beliefs, But I've been fascinated by that particular view, of existence by the samurai culture, and I've been wanting to study more and more and more to try to really understand the mindset of somebody who was in that period of time and why they did what they did. So just kind of going back to your question, for me, it's just a matter of quality and not quantity. It's integrity, it's health.
What do you do? I mean, what are your practices that keep your quality of life high?
Well, exercise is medicine. Movement is medicine.
What could you be more specific?
Yeah. Especially in our modern society, our bodies are very stagnant because you're either sitting in a desk, sitting in an office, sitting in a car, sitting in front of a TV or a computer for vast amount of hours. Mm-hmm. So your body is not really doing what it was designed to do, which we were designed to move. We were designed to search for food, to change locations, defend ourselves from predators. And now we don't have really any of those challenges as far as we know. So we have become really sedentary. And anything that is stagnant, then it becomes toxic. So I see movement itself, whether it is walking, doing yoga, doing stretching, even if you want to go and take a dance class, even if you want to go and play a sport, you want to go swim, you want to go hiking, whatever type of physical activity that is done in regular basis and is demanding to your, let's say, physical condition and age, and it is a good thing. It is a good thing to struggle. And I think that our modern society, with all of the technology and the air conditioning and being comfortable and being able to reach anything we want with the press of a button, it has taken away that uncomfortableness of the human condition. We have to struggle. You want your body to develop, you're going to have to work hard, beyond your current capability to develop a stronger condition. Mm. And we have moved away from that. So I guess movement is medicine. Okay, number one. Since I'm not a doctor,
don't take anything from this podcast, and
don't take anything like that. But I'm highly suspicious of the entire modern pharmaceutical and medical complex. I don't believe that we were designed to be in the state that it's being promoted. And then just, again, coming from the marketing background, you cannot watch a show without getting bombarded with all of these new medications that, when you hear to the side effects, are even worse than the actual reason why you are getting them in the first place. Mm. And then it's one after another, one solving the problems that the next one is giving you. So it's like it's a maze that you can never leave, and it keeps damaging your body in an unnatural way. Yeah. So I think it comes down to exercise, diet, and diet is basically just healthy choices that you are taking. You are aware of what you're putting into your system all the time, and my personal guideline is pay attention to just one thing. And this can be with food, any other kind of substance or pattern or behavior or ritual that you do. At the end of the day, it comes down to this question. Is it this thing that you are doing or taking, is it stealing energy away from you, or is it giving you energy? Mm. That, to me, is the real question that needs to be answered. And if whatever you are doing is working for you because it's giving you energy, and I'm talking about energy in the positive sense, I'm not talking about just taking a bunch of cocaine and saying, I'm super energetic, that's not it, I'm talking about just eating the right type of food or doing the right type of activity or having the right type of exchange, conversation, being in the right environment. if after that you feel enhanced in the good way, just keep following that. That, at least for me, that's the guideline.
Gotcha. And then how does, obviously you do Aikido and that helps you with your movement. How often are you doing?
Oh, I've been doing it now for 40 years. 40 years. And
how many times a week?
Well, when I started, and on my first 25 years, I was definitely all in, 6-7 times a week.
Whoa.
2-3 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
And then now I'm in a different stage, take it a little more easier. So I just train 3 times a week, 2 hours a day. And then the rest of the time I do other things, walking, yoga, swimming, just to kind of, I guess, help my body heal from a lot of the high impact training from the past,
What's the thing that you do that you wish you didn't do?
You mean?
Like, you told me all the good things. What's the thing that you go, this is my guilty thing that I do that I know isn't good for me, that isn't helping my quality of life?
Wow. All right. Well, let's just go with the physical part first.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe
no. But it's all good.
I'm just always curious because obviously you're fit and you're in good shape and you've got high energy. But I'm curious, like, what are your guilty pleasures when it comes to not acting the way that you would say is ideal?
Well, let's go back to my 40-year training. And I think that I overdid it in many different areas of my body, and I'm paying for the consequences now. But when you're young and strong, you think you're going to live forever and it's always going to be like this, and you just don't pay attention to it. So you just keep going at it and at it and at it. And then eventually one day somebody passes you the bill, and then you realize, oh, wait, now there has been a lot of damage done to certain areas that you're not going to be able to get it back what it was, So, and I also, because I come from a different generation that had a different mentality, especially back in those days, the mentality was that you just got to keep punishing the body, because that's the manly thing to do, It's like, that's how men are,
Right.
And I look at it now and I say, it's all, it's nonsense, like what I believe now is that you have to train hard, but you have to train intelligently.
Okay.
And, I think that even in MMA, a lot of those professional fighters are coming to the realization that months before the fight, they actually don't spar hardcore. They just do very light sparring because they know that's where the injuries happen. So they don't want to get injured before the fight,
Yeah.
So
where do most injuries happen in Aikido?
Taking falls.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a 60-70% of your training.
It's just falling?
Yeah. Especially at the very beginning, that's what is called being an uke, which is the attacker. Mm-hmm. So you are just receiving the technique of the others.
Okay.
And if you probably got to take somewhere around 200 to 300 falls in a single class.
Whoa.
So like I said, when you're young, you go home and it's like, okay, maybe I'm a little sore. Next day you're fine, But later on, it's like, here's your bill. Like your hips, your back, your shoulders.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that I would want to have done differently if I knew. But,
yeah.
And then as far as other areas, you will have to be more specific about what you would like to know.
For me, like I agree. Obviously, the movement's everything. I move a lot throughout the day. Start the day with a walk, and then get into work early in the morning, cleaning stalls because of all the horses. And I try, but tell me if you think this is stupid, but I've tried to not sit, and only if I'm resting, I'm either walking or I'm laying down. So I've tried to stay out of like a seated position. Like what we're doing right now feels very like unnatural for me.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, like if I'm going to put myself not on my feet, then I'm going to be in like a complete reclined position.
Well, look, I mean, just in the short time period that I've met you, the last word that will ever cross my mind about you or anything that you say or do will be stupid. So that's, let's just start with that. No, and I'm truthful. Then, you're also a young guy. You got a lot of energy. So it's natural that, you have a difficult time sitting still. And then I have to actually tell you that I completely relate to this because that was one of my issues, especially when I was in my 20s and early 30s, that just because I had this excessive amount of energy, sitting still was difficult, even though that we have it in the practice of Japanese martial arts that is called the Zazen, which is a seated meditation. But I discovered over time, and now that I'm in a different period, I'm enjoying it more and more and more and more.
Okay.
I discovered that the best way for you to truly engage into a deep-seated meditation is by having a good workout prior to it. You want to make the body tired.
Yeah.
So then you can sit and just relax,
Yeah.
I always kind of had this problem with those people that say, I want to go and practice meditation after work. But there's like, hey, you've been sitting for 8 hours. Now you're going to go and sit again just to practice meditation. It's like, no. You've been sitting for 8 hours. Go take a walk. Go take a run.
Right.
Go do some exercise. And then after that, when you're done, sit down for 5-10 minutes in absolute silence, in absolute stillness.
Yeah.
And you'll see that naturally your meditation will flourish, you know? But I think that will pass. That soon will pass. So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, specifically, if your question wanted to go into a different area, just shoot. I
don't know. I was just curious about obviously you've been physically fit for a long time and you take being active seriously and your health seriously. But I'm always curious what you do on a daily basis that you would say isn't necessarily the thing pointing directly to that. Do you have a guilty pleasure, a thing that you do that you're like, I know I probably shouldn't be doing this, or I feel bad about doing this? Because you were talking about, evolution and having to become aware of the things that we need to change or whatever in order to progress. Is there anything like that you're like, this is where I...
Maybe I did in some point in the past with certain things, but I truly do what I want to do. Okay. So, and the things that I want to do are things that interest me deeply, and somehow they make me feel more connected to myself and to everyone else and everything else, So I go back to that principle, which is if whatever I do, it doesn't make me feel good or more energetic, and I feel that has stolen something from me, then immediately I do not seek it anymore.
So you're not a guy sitting on your phone scrolling through Instagram for hours
I do, but I don't look at it as something bad, you see? But I do. I mean, I participate in modern technology and time. But in my case, I look at it as part of my work.
Right.
Which that's the reason why I'm in social media, really.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not there to share personal information or what kind of coffee I had in the morning or, I'm in social media because I want to promote the work that I've been doing my whole life, which is related to martial arts. And at the same time, I want to bring that work to other levels where the information that is being treated by this practice and these experiences can translate to other individuals that maybe never are going to have anything to do with martial arts, but some of the things that I discovered through my martial practice and my exchanges with other people like you can benefit somebody that is listening. So that's really the reason why I scroll down, because, I want to see what other people are doing, are saying. I want to learn as well to see how I can make what I'm doing better. So I partake on that, but not just randomly, I guess,
Gotcha. You're not letting the algorithm dictate your life.
I mean, well, and then
See, that's what I was looking for.
Right.
That,
Yeah.
Right there,
well, because there is no escape to it.
Sure.
In reality, there is no escape to it because we just define that it's a higher form of intelligence that is going to get you somehow. So they're going to figure out, what is your file, what are all of the conditions that define the human that you are, what are your tendencies, and they're going to hit you from one side or the other. So that's there, and I'm aware of it, and I used to do that also in advertising as an exercise, which is like, if you are going to have to watch commercials for whatever the reason, just because maybe you're watching a show that you really like and they put the commercial in there and you have to watch it. If you have to watch the commercial, then do it as an exercise of consciousness, which means look at the commercial and analyze what's going on. Who are these people? What do they want to sell you? What message are they promoting? And look at it as an exercise of social engineering. And I think that's going to have a less burden on your psyche as just basically watching the whole thing in an unconscious level and letting that information sink in without bypassing the filter.
Right. Don't buy in, don't lock into the commercial,
Yeah.
That's interesting. I guess that's true though, because you could use that as kind of an exercise, and then you'll start to see the more subtle advertising schemes that are coming your way throughout your life, versus if you let that obvious commercial come in just unfiltered and just let it do what it's supposed to do to you, then you're going to be more susceptible to the more subtle forms that are coming.
That's right. And it's all forms of manipulation, mental manipulation, But then at the same time, I want to give you something, because I am certainly not a perfect, there's no such a thing as that,
So, I'm searching for the flaw.
I get it. And I'm completely open to talk about it. As a matter of fact, I think that's how you truly become stronger, is by acknowledging those weaknesses and working on them.
Right.
And something that the martial arts has allowed me to do is to be able to look at those flaws with honesty and say, how can I make this better?
How does martial arts help you do that, though?
Well, it takes the fear away from whatever it is you think you're going to encounter.
Okay.
And I think that part of that fear is there because we are not ready to let go.
Okay.
So it's kind of like martial arts in essence, by having to being in the moment and just having to engage with another human that is exchanging with you. You have to be in that state of flow and relaxation where I cannot be holding on to things physically and mentally, And that alone, it teaches you a mental state that brings the best. If you want to talk about evolution, I believe that that's one of the keys to get there.
Okay.
It shows you a state that if you can do it in a physical level in the dojo, and you are getting the flowering out of that in that situation, then you can translate it to all the areas in your life when you struggle with other things. We look at it in this way, and just like my teacher taught me, the dojo, the training hall, is the place where you come to make the mistakes that you don't want to make outside in life, And that is such a profound and wise thing to remember throughout all of my life training martial arts, because it's so true. If there is something that I have to learn about myself, I definitely want to learn it in an environment that is designed for that kind of experience to happen.
Right.
Not out there where you will make a mistake that can cost you your life or can cost a gigantic disaster outcome, So
martial arts kind of fits that I've heard you say it now a few times, that it kind of helps you in every aspect of your life.
If you have the capability of seeing how to connect what you're learning with every part of your life, absolutely.
Do you have any other practices that you feel are similar to that you do outside of martial arts?
Well, music has always been a big part of my own inner, practice.
Do you play?
Yeah, I play guitar, yeah.
Okay.
And I started playing the guitar at the same time that I started Aikido.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So there is a core relation between those two disciplines, you know.
Do you play, like, do you learn other people's songs and play those, or do you write your own songs, or do you just kind of jam?
All of the above.
Yeah?
All of the above, yeah.
Electric or acoustic?
Both.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What kind of electric guitar do you have?
Well, I don't have an electric.
Tells a lot about a man.
Yeah, I don't have an electric anymore, and I only know. And in the last electric guitar that I had, it was probably over 25 years ago, and I couldn't even afford a really good, decent guitar, so I just had, just a very generic. The only thing that I can get my hands on. You know. And now I just got a very simple acoustic guitar that has been with me for a long time. And I kind of have it there in the corner. And whenever I feel like it, I play. But I just don't know. You know, when I was young, I used to play every single day because I used to practice every single day. And then at some point, I just stopped playing for years. And then one day I felt and I picked it up again. And then I will put it back and don't play for years, you know. And I kind of got to that area that, okay, if I don't feel it, I'm not going to play it. Do you feel like when you play guitar, you're trying to learn something new when you're playing, or are you just kind of playing, like doing it as a relaxation where you're just playing something you kind of already know? Like just falling into the groove of like, I'm going to play this song I love? I think depends, you know, like sometimes I just feel that I wanna feel that vibration of the strings and the acoustic, you know, into my body, because it's kind of like a meditation to me. And some other times I might listen to a song or see like a YouTube video of a particular song and musician, and I'm like, wow, you know, I love that song. I want to learn how to play it, you know. So it depends, you know, the motivation changes. But I find that that relationship that I have with music and the guitar in this case, which is the only instrument that I know how to play, it's in essence very similar to my relationship with the martial arts practice. You know, it's something that has to come deep within you. And with martial arts, you either love it or you don't. So if you don't love it, it's not going to develop. It's not going to evolve. Okay. You know, and that brings the next, which is going to be, you know, consistency and dedication. And without that, and I mean, you are a musician, so you must know all about that, you know. And
I've heard about it. I don't know if I know about it.
So why don't you tell me now a little bit about your relationship with music? And
yeah, we have a tumultuous relationship for sure. You know, it's
those are the best ones.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing where it's funny. I go in these spurts where I have to work on a project and usually have a deadline, and it's like, okay, we have to have this album done by this time, because I produce music as much as I do anything else. And when I have that deadline and I'll know, okay, I'm going to start today because I have to be done in 4 weeks or whatever. And I'll do my morning chores, clean the horse stalls and everything like that. I'll get done, and immediately I will clean the house. And then I will immediately be like, oh, I didn't work out yesterday. I should work out. I'll go and work out. And I'm like, oh, those bushes are getting along. I'll go trim those bushes. And then I'll find myself doing every task that's been on my list of things to do. And then the day's gone. Oh, well, I'll start tomorrow fresh, you know? And so if I ever want to get all the things knocked off my list that I've been procrastinating, all I have to do is have music ready to go. Like, that's what I've found. Because for some reason, even though it's the thing I love the most, it's like I know once I get into it, I will not stop, and I will not think of anything else. I will not do anything else. I will hear that music while I'm sleeping. I will hear it. I won't be able to listen to a book when I'm working in the morning. It's just completely overwhelming to the point that I am obsessive until the day it's done. And then usually it takes me about a week after that to try to get the music out of my head. But yeah, that's my relationship with the music, where it's when I'm in it, I'm all in it, and I cannot tear myself away from it. And it almost feels at times that it makes me go a little manic, that I feel like I'm losing my mind a little bit when I'm in that zone. So I think that's probably why I procrastinate getting into that initial starting point.
Yeah.
So quickly.
So you play all instruments?
No, I do not play all the instruments. I play all the instruments needed to make modern music, though. So I play.
What does that mean?
Drums, bass, guitar, lead guitar, mandolin, keyboard, piano, organ, Rhodes, and I have a home studio, so I have everything kind of spread around me. So when I finally go into play, I have everything set up, and I can move from guitar to keyboard all without missing a beat. So it's all flow state for hours and hours and hours. And that might be why it feels like I'm losing my mind a little bit when I'm doing it.
I think that's quite a lot. I think in my mind that's all instruments, but now I understand exactly where you come from. Yeah. You're very specific.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's quite of a lot. So you do you have one that is your particular love?
It changes. So I go from 1 week I'll be like, I'm a bass player through and through. I just love the bass. And then the next week I'm back to keyboard, piano, all day piano. And then organ. I really love playing like a Hammond B3. And then it switches back to guitar. But I started on piano when I was young. My parents made me take piano lessons from the time I was 5 to the time I graduated high school. And I hated it. So they had to force me to do it. It was a constant battle between my mother and I. And when it got high enough, my dad was called in, and then I'd go back and practice, And we had to practice 30 minutes a day. Then when I was in my early teens, I picked up the guitar and the bass and the drums. And
now let me ask you this, because my mother also, she was a piano player, and she started when she was 5.
Okay.
So I will assume that, most children that are made to take those lessons, most, they might not enjoy it completely, you know, and especially if they're teaching you how to read music, and that doesn't seem like a lot of fun, maybe for most people. So you had to do that for how many years again?
I mean, whatever it is, 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
And you can say that particular piano stage, or you hated it.
I hated it. If you go to my piano that's still at my mom's house, you feel underneath the piano, there's just years of nail marks underneath the thing of me just gritting my fingers underneath the piano.
But the question that I have is, do you now find yourself where you are with your music and your career and what you are able to produce? Do you find that those 12 years of kind of like practicing the basics, maybe, or at least the basic structure of like music, they are absolutely like necessary? It's something that you will have to do again if
yeah, it pains me to say. My parents would constantly say, "You'll thank us for this someday."
Yeah.
And no, I'm not going to thank you. And of course, I thank them now for taking the energy that it took to force me to do that. But I think the problem is, and this comes back to your point about consistency and dedication, is like when you're a kid and you're having to learn to read music, it's exhausting because you're looking at the notes, you're screwing it up, you're not doing it right, and you're looking back and forth, and you're not supposed to look at your hands, and you're just drilling all the time. And it's not a flow state situation. You're not going into that like second system thinking or whatever you call it. You're having to stay fully conscious, fully engaged, fully aware, and it's like you're just grinding against this thing. But then at some point you learn a song and you memorize it, and then you can play it without thinking. And that's when you sit down at the piano, and every single time I just automatically play that song. And I didn't mind doing that, you know? It wasn't that was the problem. It was like, hey, you have piano lesson coming up. You have to practice 30 minutes a day because we write it in the notebook that she gives us. And my mom would she's never told a lie. She's not going to lie that I played 30 minutes if I didn't. And she'd make sure I sat there and played 30 minutes. But when you're just doing that and you're not in that flow state, I don't think I really understood the positive benefits until I started finding myself knowing songs well and being able to play them and my mind being somewhere else. You know, you're playing them and it's almost therapeutic in a way because you're just completely disengaged with thinking about what you're playing. And if you think, the odd thing is, and I wonder if this is true in martial arts as well, it's almost like if you do come back and focus on what you're playing, you screw it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like you almost have to stay in this liminal space where you're not fully consciously aware of what you're doing, but you've done it so many times that it's just automatic. But if you go too far away, then you can lose it too. It's like you have to stay in this perfect medium space.
So in martial arts, in Japanese martial arts, that is called Musin. Musin.
Okay.
And the translation, some have translated as no mind, but I don't completely agree with the no mind translation. I feel it more as beyond mind.
Oh, interesting.
You know?
Yeah, that's perfect.
And what you're talking right there, is from the principle that the mind as a logical structure mechanism that we use is the software of the hardware to
right.
process the information of our physical life. It's never in the here and now. The mind is always into the future or in the past. Is whether what did I do or what am I about to do. But the mind cannot be now here because it gets dissolved, it gets destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's why for martial artists, especially martial artists, because that could make the difference between life and death.
Oh, wow.
In the case of music, you just said it.
It's just embarrassment or not embarrassment when you're at your recital, apparently.
I don't know, but I will, like the way that I feel it is that the most significant music performances is where everything melts away and you disappear and you mesh with everything because
right.
you are connected.
Well, that would be like the third thing that I experienced in music, because like I said, first one was just drilling. You're just practicing. Right. You're drilling. You're not.
It's the 10,000 hours of.
It sucks and it makes you want to cry and quit. And then you get into that place where you can play the song and you have that no mind, that or beyond mind kind of experience. But then there's this third thing that happens where you go to this other thing where you're doing it with people and they also get into that space, and then it takes you to this other level where you're playing with a band. Okay. And maybe this is the same when you're I mean, I guess in Aikido, you always have a partner relationship to a certain degree.
Well,
right?
Unless, yes. Because literally that's what Aikido is looking for. It's looking for harmonization with the other, harmonization with the self, and then harmonization with everything.
Well, I mean, it's literally the same thing. Yeah, you're literally harmonizing when you're singing or when you're playing guitar together. You're trying to. That's right. And it's interesting though, because you get that stage 1, stage 2, and then the stage 3 is like now you're doing it with these people, and they have to do it simultaneously, but you also have to do it together. So you have to be aware of them, but you're also having to not have any mind about it. So you get into this weird flow state with people that's very strange. I mean, the only thing that I have ever experienced something similar in is like playing sports, playing football or basketball or soccer or anything like that, where you're all of a sudden everybody clicks in and you're moving as one unit. And for me, that's the most fun thing about playing music. I mean, I spend a lot of time sitting in the studio and recording tracks by myself, and I can have a lot of fun and get into flow state there. But when you're doing that collectively with groups of people, and especially me, I get to play with friends and family all the time. And it's probably the most incredibly rewarding and fun and also draining. You get done and you're almost like out of energy in a way. It's almost like you're filling up and pouring out simultaneously, like this recycling of something. But yeah, that's why music and I have a tumultuous relationship. Yeah, no, and I can totally understand it and see why. Definitely the commonality, it's that sense of connectedness, that like feeling that in, a lot of people when they talk about martial arts, they forget about the arts part. Yeah, because they only want to think about combat. Right. They only want to think about
winning, overwhelming, destroying somebody to prove that you are stronger or better. But the art part is as important as the martial part.
Yeah.
That is what makes it a martial art and not a combat sport. It's just two different ideas and concepts. And the artistic part in the martial arts has to do with, well, number one, you have to have a sense of what you are in order to express it. And these 10,000 hours of practice that, you went through the piano, and in martial arts, we have those drills and are very painful and tedious and hard, and everybody's got to go through them. And usually that's where most people quit, because they're not fun. And you get hurt a lot, and you don't feel that you're gaining anything by just keep doing the same thing over and over. But then after a few years, it's literally you walk into the dojo, and it's like if somebody just turned the switch on.
Yeah.
And all of that repetition, it's so ingrained in you that now you get into that flow state.
Yeah.
And when that flow state is present, then there is true self-expression. So we kind of look at it like this with as far as ranking goes, because in Aikido you don't have like color belts or anything like that. So you start as a student, you're a white belt, and you do have exams, tests, 6-7 different levels, and then one day you test or you have your ceremony for your black belt. And then for most Aikido traditions, you wear now the hakama, which is that it looks like a big open kind of like skirt type of pant. It's the ones that samurai used to wear. It's very traditional. So that is the meaning of like the graduation now for after black belt. So many people have the conception, the idea that once you become a black belt, now you're an expert. And no, it's the contrary. The black belt is only a sign that you have graduated into a particular system, and now you have demonstrated that you are serious enough to pursue this as a life path. So in Japanese, the black belt is called shodan, and that means literally that is the beginning of the way. So the way that I like to interpret that is that the first few years as a white belt, all you're doing is learning the stuff. You're trying to mimic your teacher. You're learning drills, repeating. But there is no really artistic self-expression yet, because you don't have the tools. You don't know the scales yet.
Right.
And somewhere around that period when you graduate, meaning that you got all the basic stuff down, then you tap into that flow state that eventually now the real you starts coming out, and it's not you copying your teacher anymore.
Right.
You are moving like Ryan.
Right.
And your teacher can see that.
Yeah.
It's like finally Ryan is being Ryan.
Yeah,
it's
you kind of find your voice.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, and that's the artistic part of the martial art that I think that is beautiful, and it translates to everything else in life as we've been talking about. Do you feel that way about music, that the whatever you have learned and gained through your music discipline has translated into everything else?
I haven't thought about it as I mean, I guess it has. I haven't really thought about it like that, but it has to, because it becomes such a part of you. And it's funny, when you're on stage, there's this thing that happens where people on stage, they're performing. There's like this performance aspect to it. But also there's this aspect of like vulnerability where you're just like being yourself. You're moving the way you feel and intuitively is proper. And so there's like all of that. And I think that where it's kind of infiltrated my life, other than the obvious discipline, do something over and over again and you reap the reward of it. I think what it's done is it's forced me to see myself in that performative space and see myself in life. And when I first started doing music, those things felt very, very far away from each other. I wasn't the same person on stage and off of stage. It was like two different people almost, because the performance was so different than who I was off of stage.
Okay.
But over time, those two things have kind of come towards each other.
Love it.
To where now I feel like the person that I am off of stage is very similar to the person that I am in that performance. And it's not because I've become less performative or more performative. It's like those two things have come together, and I feel closer and closer in a lot of ways to this.
That is, I gotta say, it's a beautiful thing what you just said right now. The Japanese martial arts with the samurai culture, they were influenced heavily by Zen, which is basically the adaptation of Buddhism from the Japanese, to the Japanese culture. And there is an old Zen master that once said something like this: you must be with others the way that you are alone at home, and when you are alone at home, be the way that you are with others.
That's beautiful.
And that is exactly what you just said. And I have looked at that as a pursuit in my own life.
Yeah.
Of like how we need to keep forging ourselves until there is no division anymore between this and that. It's just you all the time.
That's perfect.
Ryan, just to close it up here with Robbinsville, that's the name of your band right now.
Yes, it's my buddy Chase. He, just to throw a shout out to Chase, I told him I was coming on here today. He was helping me this morning. He's my neighbor as well.
Okay.
And he wrote a bunch of really good songs. And we decided, I asked him, I said, do you want to write an album together? We had never worked on music like that together. He said, yes. And we got together, and he would give me songs, just acoustic and vocal, and then I'd produce them and add all the instrumentation, change things here and there, and we wrote a few lines here and there together, but the two of us kind of put that together, and then we brought in a couple of friends to play a couple of parts here and there, drums, a couple of the guys around here, Steven, Ryan, Ricardo, and then Evan came in on some bass here and there, and Lee played a ripping guitar solo, and so I played a lot of the instruments, but those guys helped out as well. And it was something we just did because we wanted to do it. Okay. And
that's the best reason.
Yeah. And I'm really proud of it. It's the best music that I've ever been a part of. So,
all right. So if anybody that has been listening to all of these topics and conversations and exchanges of all kinds, is looking to hear some of Ryan's current work and music, so they can go to Linktree Robbinsville. That's with 2 B's,
yes,
right?
And it's on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. Look for a gator swimming, a black and white gator. My buddy Corey Woosley took that picture in the Everglades. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So look for the gator.
Yeah.
The cold shock, you were the feeling, your heat was exciting. You caught me off guard and blamed it on the season, and I was falling, tripping over the night, crawling after you light, and when the morning came, you got me once, but you